Um, Hello and welcome to everybody to our sixth how-to session. Already going for about 1 year, started first time last August and was initiated by the Estonian Design Centre. And we are happy to continue. And even in the first session, the first how-to session, we had a topic about circularity. It was an example also from Estonia. Harimo represented Upmade, so also one famous example. So we are closing the circle and coming again to our topic. Yeah, my name is Conrad Dorer, working for the German Environment Agency, and they're in the section of sustainable consumption. And I was involved also 5 years in the EU Interreg project EcoDesign Circle, where we tried to find out together with design centers approaches how to bring circularity to enterprises, to anchor it as methods for design centers and other actors. Today, our topic is circularity in textiles, and is embedded in the 10th year of the German EcoDesign Awards, which was actually our instrument, how we tried in Germany or in German-speaking countries to get more eco-design or eco-design solutions more famous, how to promote the topic, how to find good solutions and to spread it and give them a floor and the word. And I might share with you first some examples as an ideas how it looks like. And we have there 4 categories actually. So it's from young talent. We have, so after finishing or in the last year of university, we have in the categories of product, but also service and also for concept. So, and of course, also, we have it for all sectors. And one of these sectors is, of course, also textiles. And here are some examples from 2017. On the left, you see a result of one of the speakers today from Budde, which is called Design for Circularity. And interesting, or one part you see here is this so-called kind of QR code, which tells you more about the material and gives information for consumers, for recyclers, and gives much more transparency about it. So it was a winner in the category of young talent in that year. Another example is Natascha von Hirschhausen. It's a designer, and she was also winning in the category of product. She has a design studio in Berlin and is producing in Berlin the clothes there. What is important, she tries to reduce waste. It's maximum about 1%. Because she makes the cuts really as needed and makes customer-tailored solutions. Another example from 2016 is the all-weather coat. So what is important there is a special weaving techniques, and it helps. So it's for outdoor, but it doesn't need any special chemicals to be water repellent. So it's also a solution which helps for longer durability of it, and also to avoid substances.
Conrad, sorry, I'm just saying we're only seeing your first slide, but I think this is what happened. Okay, now we see. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for telling me. So right now you can see hopefully the all-weather coat. Can you see it?
Yes, now it's all good, thanks.
Perfect, because it's much better to see it than just to hear about it. So we have it on the left side, and on the right side, it's an example from the company Freitag, which uses hemp for their clothes, and is also famous for upcycling in former times of old stuff from, for example, from trucks, and making bags out of it, for example. And last 2 issues, which are going more in the direction of service. It's from the first year till it's in tatters. It means if you have a favorite piece of clothes, then maybe it's after some years, it's a kind of destroyed, but you really like it, and they help you you can still wear it. They combine it with some other parts they have. So it's a kind of revamp repair studio, helping you for for durability of your clothes. And on the right side, it's a kind of service. It's a renting service, of course, for children clothes, and it's organic, ecologically good clothes. It's called Räubersachen, things for young robbers. I could translate it like this. Yeah, and so you see the dimension. And what we did also in our project is, what is most important is to work between disciplines, to work with the enterprises, with the designer, with experts from environmental circular economy dimension, and bring them together to work for solutions. And also today, when we have our session here, we have speakers from all these directions, and I guess also from our audience. And I'm also very curious today who is in our audience, and I will share with you in the chat a short link, and I would invite you to open this link. I show you what you will see. This kind of Padlet. Where are you now? Where do you come from? So we are really interested. Where are you based right now? And you see on the right side this red circle, and there you can shortly write inside where is your place, where you are, and we will see in the map where you are based to. Yeah, please do so in the next minutes. So I see the first one in the northern countries. So it's coming from Tallinn. We have different other ones coming in Germany. So Berlin is leading with 2 persons right now. So really most of them right now we have of German guests. I see. No, we have one more from the Baltic countries. There's more coming from Estonia, 2 also from Tallinn. And we also have a guest, as I see, from, should be Slovakia, if I'm right.
Hungary.
Hungary, sorry, it's good. It's on the, but very close to the corner of Slovakia. Then welcome our Hungarian guests. Yeah, I stop it here. Okay, so we really have a mixed audience, and we really invite you to, after our speakers, to start with us to discuss, to bring in also your experiences and really to use it for exchange. If you have questions, we will have it. You can ask them in the very end. We will right now have our 3 speakers with 3 presentations. And afterwards, the floor is for you, for the audience, for your questions or your comments. Please use our session for it. By the way, I used this sweater. Actually, I have it also from times in school. So it's at least 25 years old. But today we live in a time of fast fashion, and this is a performance part of this session. So it's also a kind of shirt I have, and it's also a kind of reuse because it's from a colleague who changed a little bit his exterior, so I can use it. Yeah, but we have 3 experts who share their experiences with us today. One of you I already introduced with an example. It's Ina Budde, very fashion for circular fashion. A second one is Kerli Kant-Hvass, actually right now based, as I just heard, in Estonia. She's Estonian, but also lived and worked very long times in Denmark. And she has also a PhD, which was about weaving a past for waste, from waste to value. So it's our topic today, how to bring in more circularity. And I'm also very happy to introduce Jan Gimkiewicz, one of my colleagues from the German Environment Agency. And I would give the floor to the first speakers. Maybe you can say a bit more words yourself and that we can see you in the screen right now. Ina Budde, could you shortly tell you about you? Where are you right now? And very shortly, something about you. And how does it come that you're working with textiles or in this field of fashion?
Thank you very much. My name is Ina, and I have a little echo. Perfect. I think now that's better. Yes. So my name is Ina. I'm one of the founders of Circular Fashion, and we support businesses with like actionable different solutions to kind of continue their journey on circularity. And I belong to the ones that put the post-it into Berlin. So I'm right now here in Berlin. And how come that I work with textiles? I think I was always very interested in the material, but also like around the system of it and like how to influence the system. I think that's also something that I will share later on a little bit in my presentation, and very excited for the evening now to exchange with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Ina. And we have a second lady. I just called you shortly, Kerli. Could you tell something where you're right now and what is your relation to this sector?
Thank you, Conrad. Nice to be here. And yes, my name is Kerli. I'm originally from Estonia, but the last 20 years, almost 20 years, I've been abroad, mainly in Denmark and a bit in US as well. I live in Estonia right now, but work internationally, a lot of projects also in Denmark. And my relationship is, I've been involved with textiles and circularity almost 15 years. I entered the sector from a second-hand perspective, where I worked in US in second-hand stores and got very inspired of the variety of business models there. After that, around 2010, I started doing a PhD where I started looking from a brand perspective. How do we do the kind of circular principles? How do we integrate them into brands or existing brand strategies? And the last 5 years, I've been working mainly with the take-back, collection, sorting, and recycling. So I have I think sometimes kind of a unique position. I've been actually involved with many of the value chain parts, which makes me a strong system thinker. And I love ecosystem solutions and stitching together the circular value chains. Very nice to be here today.
Thank you. We are looking forward to hearing your experiences. And I'm very happy also to say welcome to my colleague, Jan Gimkiewicz. Could you also shortly tell a bit about you? And I know you counted all your pieces of clothes also as part of a study. Maybe you can share more about it with our audience.
Yes, hello, my name is Jan Gimkiewicz. Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to share my first results here from my study. I'm working as a research assistant at the German Environment Agency in the section of sustainable consumption, like Conrad. And for a year now, I have been working on an initial research study about durability and useful life of clothing, from which I would like to present some first findings today. And I'm very much looking forward to today's exchange, and I'm very curious to see what further questions come up in the discussion today that I might be able to include in my study. And I counted my clothes, and it's been 182 pieces, and it was pretty time consuming, but it is pretty helpful to get an idea of your own consume behavior, and I think it's a pretty good exercise. So I can really yeah, it is pretty helpful.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Maybe somebody else in the audience also knows how many pieces of clothes you have. Then you, of course, you can share it. Who has more or less? This is more the interesting question. Who has less than Jan with 180 pieces? Yeah, the first question: did you count your socks? Yeah, as pairs. Okay, the first question. So, Jan, you made a study. So we start more or less from a theory part, or from a part more from a research part, and come more to the practitioners. And you have the first study, and of course the study is still ongoing, or you are still working on conclusions. But we are happy that you share first results, and your study deals with how to make clothes, or how to recognize longevity of clothes, and how it is visible for customers and others.
Yeah, thanks. So then I'm starting to share my screen, right? Right, so now you should see the presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, as I said, we at the German Environment Agency, the UBA, are currently working on an initial research study to durability, longevity, and useful life of clothing. In addition to our consumption team at the UBA, colleagues from the production section and the waste prevention section are also involved in the study. So what are we doing at this study? First of all, we want to describe the current state of the research in case for Germany regarding to durability, longevity, and useful life of clothing. This means we did a lot of literature research, but we also did interviews with several stakeholders, and we did a survey for quality standards with relevant fashion brands. After that, with a view on the whole life cycle of a garment, we put all these informations together and checked which steps have an effect on durability, longevity, and the useful life of a garment. And here we were, of course, looking for relevant goal conflicts along the whole life cycle. The aim of the study is to describe the need for further researches and make some recommendations for that. Therefore, my input will particularly deal with questions that are still open. Yeah, why is it important to focus on durability, longevity, and useful life at all? To meet the current environmental challenges, the industry and politics focus mainly on circular economy. But this should be just one part of the solution. We also need to strengthen the discussion about durability, longevity, useful life, less production, and alternative business models. Because first of all, sustainable produced garments have a very low market share of less than 1%. So this will take a very long time until we have a relevant change here. Second, at this moment, there isn't a fiber-to-fiber recycling for every textile possible. Often we need to use virgin fibers to fill up a recycling material. And we shouldn't forget that recycling needs time, resources, and money too. Furthermore, the production itself needs energy and resources. If we just go to a circular economy, there will be no big change for these impacts. And last but not least, a longer useful life of clothes helps decreasing the whole eco balance of a garment. So what are our preliminary results and upcoming challenges? At first, the study isn't finished yet. It will be published early next year, hopefully. So these results may not reflect the final results, but I can share some first aspects. And at this moment, we identified these 4 aspects as crucial. This is the lack of definition for longevity and durability. It's the lack of decision architectures which support sustainable consumption and longevity. We have the question about the future of the textile collection system and the question of how to deal with goal conflicts. And the first big challenge is the lack of definition for longevity and durability. This challenge starts at the design. We all know that the design can define the whole life cycle of a garment, as you can also see in this map. But neither in the textile industry nor at the politics or at the customer level is a common definition about longevity or durability for garments existent. That's the reason why longevity has been just an inferior role at fashion corporations. Without a clear definition, the corporations don't want to advertise with longevity. On the other hand, customers can't choose durable products because they can't recognize them at the point of sale. But there are existing norms which could be used to measure at least the technical durability of textiles. Some standards are already being used by fashion companies. And in our study, we collected a lot of relevant aspects and norms which could be used for durability in the future. The question is, which target values within these norms should be met in order to declare a garment as durable? And yeah, regarding to norms, the Uber itself has the Blauer Engel, Blue Angel, which has the highest requirements for durability of all textile labels. And we are constantly develop the criteria further. For example, currently we're discussing criteria for repairability. So now we come to the next challenge, the lack of decision architectures which support sustainable consumption and longevity. On basis of our research, we can assume that in general, clothes could be worn for longer than it is practiced these days. Important is here especially the intensity of use of the clothes, not only the useful life in years, for example. But our current consumption structures don't support the customers in wearing their clothes for a longer time. Less than 50% of people have ever used an alternative consumption model for clothing, like secondhand rental models or sharing models. And referring to statements of some fashion corporations, these business models are not connectable to their current growth-oriented markets. The result is the fiber production between 2000 and 2015 has doubled, and in Germany, we buy up to 65 clothes a year per person. At the Uber study, you can see here on the slide, Kleider mit Haken. You can find a lot of further information about the environmental impact of the textile industry. This study will be published soon. This led us to the need for further research regarding to consumption structures. At this moment, it is indistinct which business models or which mix of business models really ensure resource conservation and how they can be economically viable. The Uber itself promotes new business ideas, among other things, through the Bundespreis EcoDesign. As Conrad said in the beginning, Budde with circular fashion was one of the winning ideas. And regarding to business models, we also hear more about it later from Kerli Kant-Hvass. So furthermore, we need a closer view on the customers. We know too little about consumer behavior. For example, how intensively is the clothing used. Various interview partners suggest qualitative wardrobe studies here. This could mean, like I did, for example, to count and analyze your clothes. Yeah. And at last, we need to support the consumers in repairing and carrying their clothes. They need to know how and where to find durable clothes, and we need to figure out how we can establish a culture of appreciation. So next we go to the system of collection and sorting, which has an uncertain future. In Germany, we have a collection rate for used textiles of 64%, which is pretty high compared to other states. But the economic viability of the system is at risk because the quality of collected garments dropped in the last years while the amount of collected goods rose. For example, the price for 1 kilo collected garments has dropped a third. You can see the prices on the slide. And that's why we looked for our study to this stage as well. So yeah, you could say, yes, it's easy. That is a clear indication that the quality of the clothing has declined. But the reasons for this development, for this price development, are much more complex. First, there are more blends, textile blends, which is difficult for the recycling. So in this phase of the life cycle, these garments are worth less at the moment. Second, the high quality garments which finance the collection system are increasingly distributed through other channels like private second-hand platforms like Vinted or eBay. And third, we can assume that consumers repair and care for their clothes less often, and this results in a shortened useful life and a bigger amount of discarded clothes. To these points, Uber published a brochure on the topic of how can consumers be better sensitized to the circular economy. I'm afraid it's just in Germany available, in German available, not in English. A further big challenge for the collection system is coming in 2025. From this point on, textiles may no longer be disposed of in residual waste. Due to this new regulation, it is assumed that collection volumes in Europe could increase by up to 2 million tons per year. And the outcome of this is the problem I mentioned before, that the proportion of high quality goods will continue to decline. So we need solutions for this stage as well. And a longer useful life of textiles is a good approach to relieve the system next to the need of technical innovations for textile recycling and new legal requirements. At last, there's the challenge of global conflicts and how to deal with them. there are many conflicts along the value chain. You know probably a lot yourself. I picked these three for my input today. First, it is assumed that synthetic fibers or blends with synthetic fibers improve the durability of a garment. But on the other side, there are health and environmental issues during the production, and blends are difficult to recycle. Then we have the negative impact of consumption on the environment and the positive effect of consumption on social aspects like participation or positive experience during the shopping. And in this context, we also have the question of fashion trends versus a longer useful life of clothing. And at this point, I want to quote one of my interview partners. She said, people are welcome to define themselves through clothes and fashion, but this is not synonymous with consumption or shopping. The event, the experience is not the shopping, but the engagement with fashion and the social exchange. Yeah, and further, it is important to mention at the end, not for all clothes need all these conflicts to be solved. Rather, the products must be adapted to their future usage scenarios and intensity of use. Yes, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Jan. As first speaker and giving insights into your study. And we introduced a system of, we called it gentle line questions. So the next speaker is allowed to ask a short question to Jan. Next speaker is Kerli Kant-Hvass. Do you have a question to Jan?
Yes, absolutely.
About his presentation or about Jan?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jan, for a very interesting insights to your research. It's the area that really touches my heart because we need to find a longer life for the clothes, and the whole re-commerce secondhand sector is very interesting. So my question to you is, in your eyes, what are the three key things that needs to happen so that we can shift consumers from consuming the new ones to used ones? So basically, how can we mainstream the secondhand? What are the key three things?
So I understand you mean how can we bring the consumers to use secondhand garments, right? Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I don't have the answers, of course, because when I have had them, then we could easily do it. We are already discussing at the Uber research project, which focused on alternative business models like secondhand or rental models. We want to find out which business models are sustainable alternative and how can we implement them in the consumption structures. And yeah, so this is a question we're discussing at the Uber as well. And I think it is, we need to make it easy for the consumers, and yeah, but the question is how.
Okay, well, thank you. So I'm looking forward to reading more of the answers then once your researchers reach that. But thank you.
Yeah, and Kerli, you're also the next one to present, and we already said the word circular business models. So we talked about one. Maybe you find in the course of the evening also more answers for your question also from us as speakers and the audience. Yeah, and I give the word for the second presentation, which will focus much more also on circular business models.
Thank you. So I do a technical thing here to share my slides. Can you see my slides? All right. And in a full screen mode? Okay, great.
It's fine.
So yes, the next 12 to 15 minutes, I will focus on business models, which was also my my PhD research from 2011 to 2016. As I already mentioned, I took the concept of circular economy and tried to understand it and piloted it in a brand context. Like what does it mean and what does it take to implement or integrate the reuse, take back, secondhand recycling into an existing brand's business model. And I worked with Bestseller and the brand Jack & Jones and name it and select it. And from that, my interest in business models and how do we bring these products and services successfully on the market has stayed. I will give a little bit of the ecosystem thinking. Why is this important that business models can't function in isolation? And I will bring one project that I'm involved with. Just a few words, which hats I have on. I have on two hats, advisor hat and kind of academic hat. So Revaluate is a young consultancy where I work with my Danish partner, where we help facilitating the circular transition. We help companies and organizations, but also municipalities and startups in developing and implementing circular business models. And beside that, I'm affiliated with Copenhagen Business School and Estonian Business School, and help where I help develop circular economy learning offers. So yeah, as Jan already made a good introduction to this wasteful business model, and how do we get more value out of clothes and prolong the life of the clothes, then I love this photo, which I think I took 6 or 7 years ago in one of the Nordic high-end department stores. And for me, this picture illustrates linear economy. Basically, the products have become waste already in the store. And this is really a high-end department store during sales. And the question here is what kind of a signal a retailer sends out to the consumers with regards to repair, long time, to good care. So basically these products have become waste already in the store floor. And that is the problem. I don't know how many of the participants today are familiar with the problems of the textile industry. I'm not going to go in detail, but just to put it out there, as Jan also highlighted in the German context. But according to Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is one of the largest or the most important, you could say, think tank on circular economy in the world, according to their studies, the growth of clothing sales has doubled over the last 20 years. At the same time, the green line is our using time of clothes is going down. So we have more clothes and we use them less. And that has many environmental problems connected to it. But of course, the biggest is the waste. We have too much stuff. Again, this is the global material flows for clothing, 2020 and 2015 by Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the same study. And just some facts, or I mean, these numbers can even be higher. But the fact is that a lot of the clothes go to landfill or incinerated, almost 73%. Only less than 1% products are recycled into new garments. 12% fibers are discarded on the factory floor. Many garments don't even get sold. And there is a huge and growing field of e-commerce returns. That is a big waste problem. So if we want to move from that linear to circular economy, we need better products that are based on sustainable and circular materials and are clean, out of nasty chemicals. We need new business models that increase the clothing use, as Jan was referring to, and we need solutions so used clothes are turned into new. And that requires the mentality, if we put the entrepreneur or business in the center here, the value creation. Every business model's aim and focus is to create value. Great value for the company, for the customer. In circular economy, the value has a broader definition. First, value not just up to the point of sale when the product is being sold, but also value after the point of sale. So all the use, reuse, refurbish, recycling, and related business model. And that requires a kind of a mindset shift among businesses. And when we talk about circular business models, when there are many different conceptualizations of business models. This is by Accenture from 2014, which I always use, I often use, which is quite clear. There are like 5 key circular-based business model strategies when it comes to circularity. First, circular supplies, the inputs we put in the products and the resources we use, sustainable or circular. Resource recovery, the second one, we recover the byproducts and dispose products and use them for new materials products. Third, product life extension, we extend the working life cycle of products by repairing them, upgrading, reselling. The fourth one, sharing platforms. So we enable longer use, like peer-to-peer platforms, where consumers can sell products. And the fifth one is a product as a service. So instead of buying a product, you rent or lease a product. And if we look at the textile industry, then a lot of interesting things are happening. Different startups are popping up, providing new services, products, but also existing businesses are innovating their business models to integrate the circular strategies into their existing operations. And it's interesting, I've followed this field now kind of with a academic research eyes the last 10 years. And it's really fascinating the last 5 years how these different names globally are popping up. Circular fashion is also here in a Budde's business, and I think first I met Ina 2015 or 16 in one of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's network events where she shared her vision, and that was fascinating. So it's nice to see how far she has gone, and I'm looking forward to hear her presentation today. But basically this picture is just a little handful of companies or initiatives or solutions that are trying to make the circularity happen. And what's important and what's the focus of my short presentation today here as well is the ecosystem thinking. So each business model as a product or service, which is the core, the value proposition you want to bring to the market. However, especially within the case of circular economy, the systems thinking is extremely important because bringing a circular value proposition on the market cannot happen in isolation, and it has to fit into the or collaborate or be in synergy with the rest of the textile ecosystem. And I think this picture very well illustrates why the ecosystem thinking is important. You have to be able to see your business in a bigger perspective. And inspiring researchers from Finland have developed this picture. I apologize, I think the small writing is not so clearly seen, but it's not the point to go here all the stages and text in this picture. It's to illustrate the complexity and the diversity of an ecosystem. So on this picture, the textile ecosystem is illustrated. The green parts are the activities connected to prolonging the life of clothes, the reuse activities, and the blue ones are the activities and operations connected to materials that are not reusable anymore and should go through the recycling treatments. And here it's shown that if you as a startup or entrepreneur or an existing business want to, for example, start renting out clothes, it's important to understand like what is the system you're going to place your business in, who is already on the market, who do you need to collaborate, and so on. For example, I talk to many startup companies, and I think at least 5-6 times per year I'll get contacted with someone who wants to start clothing rental or a re-commerce business, but with a really visionary ideas of closing the loop. So always my first question to them is, it's not difficult to make money on selling the cream, maybe the 10% of the really high quality products on the market. But if you give the promise for the consumer that we are working based on the circular principles and close the loop, then you should also be able to, for example, if it's a re-commerce business, you should also be able to take the products that has a hole in, and you should have a solution or partner what to do with this. Yes, and the ecosystem thinking has a different kind of parameters or ways of doing things. From products and services up to the point of sale, you think end-of-life solutions as well. It's not maximizing profits only, it's maximizing customer value. The interactions with industry is bilateral, from bilateral to multilateral. Very often open innovation is needed because the solutions and the technologies that need to support these solutions are complex. So you cannot develop all of it yourself. You need to go and collaborate openly. And then from partner relationship management to you need to go really and ecosystem orchestration. Of course, this is a short just overview, but it has some keywords that are really important to highlight when we talk about ecosystem thinking. And one of the projects, I'm involved with several projects, but one of this that I really wanted to highlight today is RIAN, which is taking place in Copenhagen City. And this project took departure from the fact that from 2025, all EU member states, they have to collect separately the used textiles, which of course puts a lot of pressure on countries and municipalities to figure out how to do that. And one thing is, it's not difficult to collect. The second question is what to do with all this collected textiles. So RIAN was born out of this need to understand more what is possible, but also to bring together various value chain partners and stitch or pilot and experiment a value chain that's put together based on the circular principles. So the project has 5 partners: Copenhagen Municipality, Traspo, which is a sorting company in Denmark, reuse organization Salvation Army, non-profit reuse organization that both resells but also redesigns and repairs. Recycling company Volkat, Dutch headquartered, who is a mechanical recycler, and supplier, workwear supplier Paka. And Revaluate, me with my colleague Nicola, we helped to develop the project, and we are kind of facilitating the process of it. And what RIAN tries is first, products are collected in Copenhagen city local recycling centers from the bins where consumers can bring, like they bring the bottles and other products or waste materials. Then these are shipped transported to Traspo, a sorting facility. Then the fraction of reuse will be taken out. And by reuse, here we mean the reuse for the local Danish market. This, of course, varies from country to country, but many of the Nordic countries, for example, they do a very little sorting in the countries, and the majority of the collected textiles are exported abroad for sorting, reuse, and recycling. So in this project, we tried to see first to sort the reusable fraction out for the local market, and then the rest is sorted for reuse and recycling globally. So the fraction that Salvation Army takes out, then the left waste will be taken out, and the rest is transported to Volkat. And we have divided the project into 3 working packages. The work package 1 is develop sorting criteria, as I just said, for local reuse, and then for recycling. Second is like, how do we prolong the life of this reusable fraction locally in Denmark? And third is how these materials can be recycled back to new products and services, new products and materials. And this will be done by Volkat, who has a very, very long experience mechanically recycling both to wovens and non-woven products. And Copenhagen City will then buy back the recycled products. So we are trying to close the loop, because many of the recycling companies, they are challenged to enter the market because it's the volume issue, it's the price issue, it's the issue that the products are sometimes unknown. So we, in this project, we also try to create the demand for recycled materials. The project is a 1-year project, and we are halfway. So yes, I mean, we have a website for the project, and when some results are to be shared, then this will be communicated on the website there as well. I think I have used my 12 to 15 minutes, maybe even a little bit more. This was just a short overview. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the discussion later on.
Thank you, Kerli, especially also for the very practical example from Copenhagen right now, your latest project. And I will hand over also to Ina. Do we have a short gentle lines questions about Kerli's presentation?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kerli, for this really wonderful presentation, and also for emphasizing the system thinking approach, which I can really relate to. I think that was really great. And my question to you would be, there are so many opportunities for brands to get engaged with this. So what would you advise them to start with? What's the low-hanging fruit, and what's maybe rather the long-term thing to pursue?
That's a very good question. For brands, I think right now is there are so many different opportunities for them. I mean, some brands are developing in-house solutions. Others are shopping around for the startups or solution providers outside. I know I really I have a big respect for companies like yourself and many other startups who have developed and put so much enthusiasm and hard work and resources into developing solutions. So from brand's perspective, I would try to choose the partners that fit most their business model and their vision and ambitions, and stick to them. Because I've also heard that many brands are shopping around and doing one pilot with one company and the other with other company. But maybe and I really put here like the startup glasses on here, to go and develop the system then with the partners that you start. But I think what's also important is to so that the brands that they think through what they really want, like do they want to really prolong the life of the clothes? Do they actually have a product that can be prolonged? I mean, there are many companies also produce products that have very limited option for the re-commerce and rental and reuse business models. There is a good study by Accenture that shows which price segments, which business models are more financially viable. So yes, brands make sure what do you want to do, and then find a partner who can help you in this and stick to that partner if possible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. And as our time is also running, and we are happy also to hear, you're very in the practical mood, and we are very happy to learn more about circular fashion and what is the current state. And as we said already, lots of you know you for several years already, and we are interested. Where are you now?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very happy to share today our perspective. I mean, so many great things have been presented by Jan and Kerli, and like maybe a little bit like personally, I started actually off from the perspective of a designer that, but I was always not just passionate about creating products, but more about the systems around that, because I realized, we can design a product in the most sustainable and the most circular way, but if the system around is wrong, then we will never really achieve the impact that we are aiming for. And one quote really got me there, which was like, waste is material without an identity. So like really, if we have like a material that we don't know what it is made of, or we don't know what's its destiny, then obviously becomes waste. But if we can give this identity back to a material, we can regenerate it again and again. And I was thinking like, so many companies are on the way towards the circular economy. 12% of the global market has committed to it. Also, Kerli, you mentioned like, but we're still at 1% of recycling, right? So like, what is really the barrier that holds the industry back from transitioning? So these were the questions that I asked me like before starting up a decade ago, like thinking about that and researching. And so it was really like 3 core challenges that I thought that really make a difference. And one is like really missing data and know-how for designers on recycling requirements for circular design. Secondly, missing information for customers on like how to return products, how to like prolong the life, what systems can help that. And missing data for sorters to really identify a product at end of life and provide it or give it a system for the best quality reuse and recycling. And so yeah, in a nutshell, essentially like really providing the missing knowledge and the interconnection and also the collaboration between these stakeholders was really what I felt absolutely passionate about, and what I felt should be like my contribution to this acceleration to the circular economy. And so I started off with like working with different brands and making some workshops for example, Philippa Carr, then also like developed the collection with Jan and June, which we received the EcoDesign prize Young Talent for in 2017. And it already had like quite a few elements of all this in there. So like the product was designed for recyclability. It was also like modular design, long-lasting products, cradle-to-cradle materials. And we also tried already like how can we engage the user here with like a product side that can also like explain that there are recycling partners behind. But more and more, I also realized that there is not just one massive answer, but a mess of diverse answers. And I understood that like my call was rather kind of to provide different solutions rather than working only with, let's say, one brand or building an own brand or something like that was never really interesting me. I was really wanting to collaborate and yeah, try to provide impact on many different levels here. And based on that thinking, we created circular fashion, which is kind of focusing on two different levels. So on the one hand, on the circular design aspect, where we have like trainings and consultancy and also software tools to really push this forward, but also the closed loop recycling infrastructures, where we collaborate a lot with the existing networks of sorters, recyclers, and build them up that is kind of powered with the circularity idea, which I will introduce a bit more in a bit. And first, this was always very important that we think this kind of connected, these two elements. And yeah, in the past years, we've become really like a solution provider with different software tools and services, really collaborating with like larger companies like H&M, Otto, Zalando, but also like many smaller brands that like some very different cases, I would say. And we're like only in the past 2 years, we've trained like more than 700 designers and like 70 global retailers and fashion brands, and kind of equipped lots of products with the circularity idea. So like we really wanted to kind of yeah, collaborate with them to help them fulfilling their goals as well. But we also became kind of a platform to collaborate and build up like a network of material suppliers, sorters and recyclers to really interconnect on like a digital platform and allow this data flow of information that the different partners need from the very much the creation of a product to the use phase and until the end of use. And to look a little bit deeper here, like how we did that. So we started off basically with the main part of like understanding what recyclers are actually out there that can regenerate products on a high quality and what are their feedstock requirements. And then we translated it basically in material and design criteria to make them accessible to designers globally, essentially. So we designed this circular design software where that's a material library and design guidelines and things like that. So the product creation can happen in the most circular way. And then we can save also all the product data on a platform that can be made available by the Circularity ID. So this is the scannable label that Conrad also showed in the very beginning that can make material and product data accessible to customers, but also to the full reverse supply chain of sorters and recyclers. And to make it very simple, when we collaborate with brands, we always think in this holistic circular economy, but we also see that that there are mainly like 3 steps to success from our perspective. So like really excelling circular design, engaging the users, as Jan has also emphasized a lot on how important it is to keep the products in the loop through reuse as well, and closed loop recycling infrastructures. And now I'm happy to share a little bit, practical approaches of how we do that, and some learnings, some challenges that we saw that generally brands have, and how we can actually help them in achieving that. So on the first step to success on circular design, we work a lot with workshops because we understood that often there is a challenge in companies that designers or product developers really feel that circular design is a limitation. And we rather see this huge driver for innovation and want to really create the right mindset from the very beginning to invite everyone on the same page here. And really also with circular design thinking, develop concrete solutions for products. So that's kind of sometimes like the first start here. And then we also observed the challenge of brands that they need to kind of get into a routine. They need a completely new way of working. And so we support with a circular design online training, which is essentially kind of a guided sprint where they can like take over a longer time, like a month or two, different classes, and also like really excel this new process of asking the right questions in the very beginning. So what use phase is this product intended for, and like really changing the whole way of how they design usually. And then like mostly there are some tricky parts, like for example, what kind of print should I use now, or maybe certain trims that are not there yet. So we support also with like circular product development. This example is here from Monkey, the H&M brand that developed a super beautiful and very versatile circular collection. And so we support with different questions on the way if there are certain challenges that are coming up. And then finally, like if a product design was made, brands often ask, yeah, but like now how do we know if this was successful, if now my product is really recyclable? And so for us, it was very important to develop a very actionable circular product check, which is basically validating if a product and all the different components do fit to one specific recycling cycle. And we're looking at chemical and also mechanical recycling for the different fiber types. And the validation is here really if it fits, if there is essentially a recycler out there that can take it back and regenerate this product to the same value again. And the last step here in circular design for us is really to enable the brands to also go alone and like integrate this into their everyday working life. So the circular design software that we've created like provides a library of materials, but also design guidelines. I would say a little bit a decision-making help and support for designers to really know, okay, what techniques can I use for my product? So you can filter for different life cycle scenarios or product types, etc. And to also check if the material combination really was recyclable altogether. And so if we have now a recyclable or circular product, which is very long lasting as well, of course, we also want the users to love it for a long time and to really engage with it. So we collaborate a lot with our partners and fashion brands to kind of build up circular services. So here are two examples that I've brought. One from that we developed for Kerli, that like a concept here that is basically a re-dye option. So we know, of course, like rental and resell, etc. But very interesting services can also be created based on the product design. So really allowing to recut a product or to re-dye it if the customer wants to change it again. And on the other hand, the brand Sylvia offers actually a 24-month service guarantee where repair is included and different other things. And some learnings that we had here is to really optimize the product design for the circular retail model or for the circular service is really key to make it successful. And then the Circularity ID, we offer the brands to really have a support on communicating all this, to on the one hand share transparency about how the product was produced, what materials are in there, but also what kind of services they can actually offer to the customer. So one example is our partner Zalando that has basically an own e-commerce offer that is called Circle. And so customers can trade in the garments that have a Circularity ID, but also others, kind of resell it there. And so like this really empowers then the circular retail models even more. And the last step to success, closed loop recycling infrastructures. I think we've heard great things before about how the sorting is happening right now, and like that there are definitely big challenges to the way of manual sorting that we have to do, or that is right now predominant. But also like the challenges that come and also opportunities with the 2025 separate collection of textiles. So we've taken into consideration that we kind of need to also empower the sorters and the existing reverse supply chain infrastructure to sort kind of based on intelligent other information. And we do on the one hand ID-based sorting. So we have created a sorting station with the software that can also access the Circularity ID. And it gives information to the different grade what a product could have, if it's either then reusable or recyclable, in which fraction it can go, so that we can actually empower the biggest value to be captured from a product here. And we're collaborating with different sorting partners here as development partners, but also more of those are committed to kind of do the ID-based sorting, so we really can unlock this value here. And one kind of a last example that I've brought here from a nice pilot that we've done is essentially the closed loop pilot that we do in collaboration with Verwertung, which is a sorting organization, the umbrella one for the charitable sorters. And then in collaboration with lots of different brands. So we have Angels on board, Otto, and also a few more smaller brands. And we pilot essentially all the different steps of such a circle. And I think the special thing is here that it's really a pre-competitive space, and brands can really share their learnings and exchange on like how to make it actually the most beneficial, and how to maybe also support each other. So we've made really great experiences with that. And also with the sorters that are here on board to really make a change also in more intelligent automated sorting. And what we learned from all of this is also that we need collaboration, and we need kind of standardized systems so that we can actually collaborate also with other service providers. And that is like the reason why we actually the product data that is saved about a garment, we created a data standard for that, which we call the Open Data Standard, that was launched in 2019 already. And we did this in collaboration with lots of different brands and recyclers and sorters to really save all product data that is needed about a garment, to empower a product side, to empower intelligent sorting, and so on. And on the other hand, we also thought that like this needs to be further developed, and this needs to become like also globally accessible. And so we're very much engaging with different standard initiatives and other collaborations in projects and exchange to really drive this forward. So we have some EU Horizon 2020 programs that we're participating. We're collaborating there with like on an ISO norm, but also with the Umweltbundesamt, of course, on the product information 4.0 to really further develop all the standards towards, in the end, a product passport. Essentially, I think that's really important that we arrive there. And yeah, with that, I think I want to close that standards and collaboration here is key, and we need really coordinated synergies and holistic system design to really move faster together. Because we cannot lose time for that. It's such an urgent race towards the circular economy, and we're very appreciated all the collaboration with the partners that we had so far, and of course all the support and visibility that also the EcoDesign Prize gave us. So thank you very much for that, and very excited to engage with other conversations now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ina, for your quick wrap up about lots of initiatives you started and which are connected with your circular fashion. Yeah, it's a kind of consultancy, one may say, even development. Yeah, our time is running, and we also want to have the questions of the audience, but I give also the last line question for Jan to Ina.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Ina, for the presentation. It was very interesting. For my own study, I would like to know more about the circularity ID. Are there any informations to, or are you planning to include informations to the longevity or the durability of the garment, especially for the customers? So is the circularity ID like, could it be like a label for longevity, something like that?
Thank you, Jan, for that question. So definitely there is a chapter about how to care the best for your item on the interface for the user. So I think that's one very important element. And also, like, we've developed kind of some circular design criteria that takes into account longevity as well. So when we work with brands, we always encourage them to kind of follow those as well. But what I think would be very exciting as well, a great opportunity, is to essentially measure the longevity at the end of life. If we're able to kind of equip products with the idea, and then, you know, when they come back to the sorting place, to really measure, you know, how long was this garment used, maybe how many different uses did it have. So we have some interfaces there about like tracking actually events and the life cycle of a garment that is already possible. And we envision to also be able to measure that at some point, to also like feed it back into design, essentially. So like what was very useful for designing for longevity, and did it really work? So these things we're exploring at the moment as well.
Cool, thank you. Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I open the floor for our audience. We have one question or two big questions already in the chat. And I invite also everybody who is visiting us, if you like, now to turn on your camera, if you like, because then we can really feel like in a big room all together. And yeah, we have one question from Eliana Silva. Would you like to raise your question yourself?
Hello.
Please turn on your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so these two questions. So thank you so much for the presentations. At the moment, I'm working in a circular economy accelerator program. So we are very on top of this topic and very curious to understand what other ecosystems are doing. And regarding your presentations, I was very curious to understand how their different ecosystems are talking about overproduction in general, especially the big brands. What is the mentality? I'm assuming they are aware of these consequences, but so far, what are the positive steps in that regard? And the second question was about this long value chain that many materials are coming from, for example, Asia or other continents, that we cannot control everything in the value chain. So what is the rationality behind to not only create a big machine of recycling, but also how to really prevent have to recycle a lot, because the more and the impact in those environments, of course.
Mm-hmm. So maybe Kerli, you're the first one to answer.
I actually think the first question was more to Ida regarding the overproduction, if the initiatives are kind of addressing this, or how brands are addressing this. Maybe
okay, maybe because I also heard about the ecosystems, but maybe Ina, you start, and if you want to add, because I guess it's a broad question for where all of you can give some input. Maybe Ina, you start.
Yes, of course, with pleasure. So we definitely have a few brands that are rethinking a lot the way how they produce, and a few of them have already incorporated like production on demand systems. So that is something really interesting what we observe. And then I think the second aspect that is highly relevant is also to think before you produce something or you design something, for whom is it actually, and like for what kind of life cycle is it, to really design with intent and a purpose, and to really make sure there is someone really wanting to buy this product, and also like to really design essentially the use phase into this product. So these are definitely some things that we consider at the very beginning to provide, or like to prevent that overproduction is happening and increasing, etc. And maybe Kerli wants to go over. Otherwise, I could also jump on the second question, but I think there's more to say. So.
I think, I mean, my experience working with brands and their overstock is limited. So it's definitely, I mean, I think many brands, they don't know actually what is the status, or it's not, the data is not collected exactly, like how much is returns and what happens with things that have not been sold. So I think this is kind of a gray zone. Also the returns from the e-commerce, it's a growing field, like like many brands, they still destroy because it's easier and cheaper than to renew them for new sales. But I'm yeah, my experience exactly with that waste fraction is limited, so I will I will stop here and not speculate.
Okay. Ina, for a second part also of the question.
Yeah, so I very much appreciated that, Ilya, you brought up the topic of like the more regional approach, and like for us, I mean, we always think that we also need to create more regional circular systems that are really healthy and resilient. It's also a big question of like where does actually the waste is created and collected and sorted, and where the majority of production, of course, takes place. So we observe that also like recyclers have a lot of challenges sometimes to find regional partners here for big volumes of like spinning, etc. in Europe. And so they rather tend to kind of build value chains also than in other types or in other areas. But we also see possibilities there. So we definitely have some recycling partners that have very regional closed systems that have like a 360-degree, facility where they can actually build everything from recycling a new fiber in one place. So I think that's really interesting to observe the more regional systems, and also to see how we can build bridges there to make more healthy systems.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Aliana, okay for you?
Yeah, great.
Okay, so please, everybody, we invite you. You just can turn on your mic because we are not so many in the room. And the floor is yours. The speakers are open for your question. And also, I also give, of course, the word if you among each other from Ina, Jan, and Kerli, if you have questions, of course, for the other speakers, you can ask, or if you have any comment, of course, to what was said today. So currently not. Maybe I may coming back also to. Oh, there's one. Kerli, you have one question.
Yes, I actually have back to Ina with. So now when you work with many different brands, so what are the brands' needs today? So, I mean, years ago, there were not any external service providers on the market. So they really need to figure out in-house, like how to go about it if they wanted to do a take back or e-commerce. And now there are all these providers like yourself out there. So what is their need today? Are their needs satisfied?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what is needed for them is to kind of understand the bigger picture, not just do very small trials, but to really commit and like to convince also everyone internally that it's not really a question if to go circular, but more like when to go circular. And like, because I think it's what we observe is like lots of trials, lots of smaller pilots, but brands are really hesitant to really bet on this horse or like be the first ones to really dare and say like, we are becoming fully circular and we're doing this now because we believe it's the right thing to do. I mean, there are big ambitions from some brands with really great goals, but we also want to see actions. And I think what they need help with is also like the whole, like on the one hand, communication part, kind of get also that the customers are also like ready for this. But I think that's an ongoing thing that really increased, and we see a lot of momentum there. But I think it needs to go like hand in hand and vice versa to like really have more bolder goals on the one hand, and more than smaller trials, I would say, because we need volumes in the system to make it also efficient. If we only have like a few items, then recycled fibers, they will stay more expensive than the virgin ones. But if we have like the circular design in place that kind of eases the recycling, if we have like more automated sorting possibilities, and then lots of product that can be sorted there, it's a win-win situation for everyone. And I think that's so important that companies understand they also need to do this step and bringing more volumes into the play, into the circle, and then they will also benefit back from that with like more economic viability, etc.
Mm-hmm. Because when I was involved with brands, like working from a brand side, and that was some years ago, the interesting thing was that there was a lot of silo thinking when it came to sustainability and circularity, and very often the sustainability initiatives were in the corner of an organization. And to really make the circular economy happen, you need the cross-department collaboration, you need to break these silos down so that you can actually even pilot successfully. So what do you experience today? Are organizations reorganizing themselves and making circularity as a cross-functional activity, or are they still sitting in some silo in a CSR department or
it's a great
department?
And we experienced the same as you did, that like normally it's very much CSR, sustainability topic, and what we usually propose in the trainings that we do is really having interdisciplinary teams, and they often are very surprised if we say like, let's invite customer support, let's invite marketing, let's invite like all the different perspectives that we need on the table, not only the product creators, but really along the full business. And in the end, they're super happy about that and are really like understanding that, well, it all makes sense to kind of exchange with the other departments and so on. Absolutely. So very much agree, but I think it's still a journey. So it's usually surprising for them, this way of thinking.
Okay, thanks. I have more questions, but let's see what the floor audience.
Yeah, ask is anybody from the audience, because the floor is also open for you. So you just can, there's one from Anna Pokar from Hungary. Please.
Hello, thank you for the presentations. I had a question for Kerli about so you, in your presentation, you spoke about a system that you worked on with the municipality of Copenhagen. So Copenhagen is a capital city of Denmark, and has like 600,000 inhabitants. And the question is basically, in Europe, there are towns and cities, many towns and cities, which have around 200,000 people and or less. And is there any, or do you know of any project that is working on developing a viable system for the same purpose or similar purpose for municipalities which are on that scale?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, that project is a pilot project where we really experiment with, I think, 50 tons of textiles collected from consumers. So it's a very small fraction. But we take the learnings and experimenting this kind of circular value chain, so to see, can this be scaled up to other cities as well? When you ask about other municipalities and cities, then the circular economy is a field that's growing very fast. There are so many projects and initiatives popping up like every week. I'm sure there are many cities who try pilots around textiles and circularity, because this 2025 EU requirement is just forcing to find out how to go about it. Belgium and Holland are two countries that work, also Finland actually, are countries that work very strategically with these topics and piloting. But if they are including the elements of collection, sorting, local reuse, mechanical recycling of everything that can be recycled, plus public procurement, that I don't know if such a project exists in other places. If any of the audience knows, I would also be happy to know. But with the ReYarn project, we really we chose mechanical recycler because mechanical recycling still can much more than the chemical can. Plus, Volkert is a company who can do both woven and non-woven, so their outlets are very varied where the products can be used. And of course, including the public procurement element here is also unique. So the experiences from this project give knowledge and understanding to build the procurement criteria if municipalities start contracting in the future the partners to organize the collection and circulation of textiles. I can see Ina has their hand up.
Yeah. So we are almost in our time. So I would say if you have 5 minutes for questions, so please raise your hand or just turn on your mic. So I know Ina and also Kerli, you have one question, but of course, if somebody else from our audience has a question, please just raise your hand and we can use the 5 minutes. Otherwise, I would give first a question to Ina, because Kerli, you had already some questions for Ina. Yeah, please raise your question, Ina.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question to Kerli, because I think that sounds very interesting, that project. And I was curious if looking at like extended producer responsibility is also a part of that project, or if not, maybe you can also share a little bit your experience or opinion about that.
Yes, that's the white elephant in the room in some audiences. No, the extended producer responsibility is not included in this project. And the project really starts from municipal side, where the end of kind of waste products have been returned. Ideally, yes, the initiative should take the full cycle and have the producers on board as well. So this could be a follow up or the next phase. My own opinion about EPR, I think EPR in one or another way is a way forward. Without that, without having producers participating in cleaning up and circulating the products, the system would not work. There has to be, producers need to be committed also financially to be part of this. So EPR is absolutely needed in one or another way. There are different ways to go about it.
Okay, so we have our last minutes. Please use your chance. We have 3 excellent speakers today here. Yes, there's one more hand again from Anna Pokar. So please.
So thank you. My question is, so circularity, as I understand it, the main purpose is to keep the value of the product as high as possible for as long as possible. And in many cases, the first response of recycling everything, even if it's mechanical recycling, it degrades the value of the thing, because the value of the material is not going to be the same. So that could be another interesting thing to look into, on how to develop networks to discover other alternative ways of reusing other than secondhand things that get thrown away instead of just recycling.
Mm-hmm. So it's more a comment, or do you have a question to one of our?
Yeah, it's actually open, so.
Okay, any reaction to it? So because it's also generally about other business models.
Well, I can comment quickly. I mean, we need it all. We need all different business models to prolong the life of clothes as long as possible. Every single step, as convenient as possible. And then we need both mechanical and chemical recycling, especially now when the chemical recycling technologies are slowly coming to the market and commercially. But many of them are cellulose-based recycling, so it's a very cotton-focused recycling. And mechanical recycling, yes, the quality degrades, but there are many different outlets. They can also be felt or other products. So where we are today, both chemical and mechanical recycling, they need to complement each other. Of course, the future, ideally, nothing gets wasted and everything is circulated forever, but we are far from that. I mean, the chemical recycling technologies have been developed long time and they are slowly coming to the market. So it's not miracles are not happening. And we're still around this 1-2% recycling fiber to fiber.
Okay, so it's almost a bet that last consequence that also the recycling techniques need much more to develop and to be used. I would give for each of our three speakers, Jan, Kerli, and Ina, a last word. What would be from your side an urgent, big impact next step we should really focus to reach our more circularity in textiles? What would be your key message you would like to spread? Jan, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I would like to see that the topic of durability and longevity is further strengthened in the textile industry because, as I said in my presentation, I think circularity is pretty important, but it's not the only solution we need.
Okay, so we have here the word for durability and longevity. Kerli, what would be your big impact next step, your key message you would like to share today for the audience?
I think with Jan's, in line with Jan's words, where I am, like as a person and as a professional in this sector, I would say we need to mainstream secondhand as much as possible. We can make good products, but we have a lot in our closets and being produced the last 20 years, and it's still a niche. So secondhand needs to be more professional, more convenient, and more accessible and economically attractive. And not just the online platforms, but also when you go to a shopping mall, there are next to the first-hand stores, there are professional second-hand stores. That's my dream. It has been 15 years. And I think that making this easy for consumers makes them also consume second-hand. And then, of course, we need to collect them and recycle them into new products.
Okay, this was the word for reuse. And you also asked your first line question to Jan about the 3 key magics, how to increase the reuse, the second-hand use of textiles. Yeah, Ina, what is your magic last recommendation or your message for next step, which we really should tackle to have a real impact on it?
Yeah, I would say start today if you have not yet, and do good and talk about it. Because what we observe sometimes with brands that they don't dare to share yet what they're already doing because they're not yet at 100%. And I would say that it's really important to have an open discussion about this and to share authentic kind of information of where they're at, and to really also inspire other brands and encourage them to jump on it as well. So yeah, do good and talk about it.
Dare to share, yeah, it's it's a good final word, actually. I was very happy to see all of you here during our discussion. Also, big thanks also to IDZ, the International Design Centre in Berlin, for helping and supporting this event today. Thanks also to the Estonian Design Centre, one of our EcoDesign Circle partners, for hosting this event.